Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my end of the year unhaul. This video was voted on by my bibliothecary supporters, so every month my bibliothecary supporters get to vote in a poll for a video topic that I'll do that month. And this month I got to vote for a ton of different topics for Vlogmas, so they got to pick about 6 of the Vlogmas videos that I'm doing this month. So if you're interested in contributing to my content that way in the new year, which includes some new things like a reading challenge and seasonal read-along so that people have more of a chance to read along with us and a bunch of other stuff, I will link the bibliothecary on the screen if you want to join in. So this is an unhaul of some books on my TBR. I have been unhauling books that I have read throughout the year and I just don't show them. I've been meaning to put them in my wrap-ups when I do that, but I think I forget. Like, I do it half the time and half not. I have to remember to do that more. But if I have a physical book and it's like 3 stars or below, I tend to unhaul that, just as a general rule, so just know that. But these are the books that I was looking over on my TBR, and one of the reasons for doing this is something that I've talked about, I think, a little bit on here. Yes, I have in like my Goodreads evaluation thing that I've also talked about on TikTok. Follow me there if you want to, it's linked in the description. But that is that this year was kind of a fine reading year for me. Like, I read a lot of 4 stars and a lot of 3 stars, but not a lot of 5 stars. And so next year I kind of want to prioritize 5-star reads. And the thing is when I talk to friends about like DNFing and picking books, they're all like, yeah, I know what, you know, if they read a lot of 5 stars, they're like, I know what kind of books I'm gonna like, and so I tend to, you know, I've just really refined my reading and I know, and I was like, oh, I know too. I will just purposefully pick books that I know are probably not gonna be 5 stars. All the time, which for at least part of 2022 I don't want to do. Like, I really want to pick books that I'm like, this is gonna be like 4 or 5 stars for sure, not like I'm not sure, because I'm gonna talk about this more at like the end of this year and beginning of next year with talking about like goals and stuff. There is something to be said for being a reviewer and picking up books that you're like, I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about this, I might like this, I might not, whatever, so that I am finishing books that even I might not love to review them. Like, I think that is helpful as a reviewer, which is what I am. However, I really just want to prioritize my own enjoyment for a little bit of 2022. I think 2021 hit my reading harder than I was expecting with that like really long slump and not quite being able to read as much as I had in 2020, obviously. For some reason, like 2020 was a much better reading year, probably because I could read more. I mean, I wasn't reading that many more 5 stars, but I was just able to read more. Anyway, these are the books that I was looking at and I'm like, I'm not really super motivated to pick these up anytime soon. I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about a lot of these, or they might just be like mediocre at best for me, or I wanna read them at some point, but I'm not sure when anytime soon. So there's a number of different reasons for getting rid of some of these TBR books. I don't have a ton. I think I have like less than 10, and I will kind of go through why I'm choosing to get rid of a lot of these. And if I do plan on reading them at some point, just not with physical books on my shelf. I'm also running out of room on my like TBR part of the shelf, and I wanted to give a little bit of update about that as well, which I will at the end. So let's get into it. The first book I'm unhauling is A History of What Comes Next by Sylvain Neuvel. And this is a book that just showed up on my door, and I did talk about, I usually don't unless I have requested something, but I really like Sylvain Neuvel's other series. I forget the name of it, but it was like robots on First Contact story. I forget what the name of it is. Sleeping Giants or something. Anyway, I really liked that series. I listened to it on audio, whatever. So when this showed up, I was like, oh, cool. I'll read another one of their books. The thing is, I just actually read the synopsis for this, and I don't think I'm necessarily gonna like it or like really want to pick it up. It seems like there's almost historical timeline things going on. It seems like generationally this woman's family has sort of like taken care of the timeline and like pushed things in a certain direction. And her task is in like Nazi Germany. She's supposed to kind of lure a Nazi scientist over to like their side for the space race, I think. So it's just kind of like a sci-fi historical fiction kind of thing, and I'm not a big historical fiction fan when it comes to books. I very rarely like them very much. I really like historical fiction in like TV or movies, but less so in books. It just doesn't hook me quite as much. So I'm not gonna really want to pick this up, and when I do, I'll be very stunned if I like love it. Again, I really liked his series on audio, so if I wanted to find it on audio and listen to it, I can see myself doing that. But not really interested in picking this up right now. Then we have one that I've held on to for a little while. Well, I think I got it in 2019, so it hasn't been like a super long time, but still. It's Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. This was actually given to me by my friend Caitlin of Book Chats when I went and visited her in Minneapolis, and she was like, do you want that? I don't think I'm gonna read it. And I was like, sure. And then I thought about it and I was like, am I gonna read this anytime soon? And the answer so far has been no. This was a book that was on my most anticipated releases for the year it came out, which I wanna say was like 2017 or 2018. But Marlon James is a National Book Award winner? Man Booker Prize winner, maybe both, for a different book. And this was his first foray into fantasy, and it's a fantasy sort of inspired by African mythology and folklore and things, which sounded really cool. But when I just read the synopsis, which was the first time that I read it because I was gonna go into this really blind, I just wasn't super wrapped into the synopsis. Like, I wouldn't be interested unless I knew, oh, this guy was like an award winner and people tend to like his stuff. This book seems to be pretty polarizing. Some people love it, some people hate it. It was being compared to like an African Game of Thrones when it first came out. I want people to stop comparing things to Game of Thrones because it never works out. But I have heard that this is pretty grim and brutal, and I don't know. I like the idea of reading an African-based fantasy, but there's a lot of those out now. There's definitely more, and some that I have already read. So it's not like I'm lacking in choices for those, and this is the only option. And I do want to read this at some point, but probably from my library because I'm not sure I'm gonna like it. So that's more so like, I'm not sure I want this to take up space for me on my shelf right now because I just don't know when I'll get to it. Here's one that I was kind of holding out hope for the author, so I'll explain about this one. And I left it very low on my shelf just to kind of like see what happened, but there's no hope in sight for this person. And that is House of Dragons by Jessica Cluess. Jessica Cluess, if you're not familiar, went on a very weird, racist, kind of like targeted tirade against a black educator on Twitter in like early 2020, I want to say. And I had this book before that happened, and I was really looking forward to this book because I really liked her first series, Shadow Bright and Burning, I forget what the name, something on fire series. I really dug it, and I was like, oh, she's doing dragons, it's so fun. Then like right after I got this book, because I feel like I got it Christmas of like 2019, 2020, like that Christmas, right before this happened. And when she went on this tirade, I didn't even get to see it before it was like scrubbed from the internet. I saw like screenshots and stuff of part of the tweets, but like I didn't get to see the full thread because she'd already like wiped it. And she like fled the internet. And what I was thinking was, from what I saw, the tweets look incredibly unhinged, that I thought legitimately that she was possibly having like a psychotic break. Like she seemed, and that's not saying like, that's not demonizing people that have mental health issues. I have mental health issues, most of my friends do, and I'm a therapist by trade, so like I get it. But because of me knowing all of that, when I was looking at the tweets, I was like, this looks like somebody who like is having some like psychosis, like something major happening. So I was like, let me just hold on to this book, not prioritize it, like pretend it's not there, and see if she comes back 6 months, a year later, and is like, hey y'all, I was going through something really horrible, I was unmedicated, I got on meds, I did some work about like what I was doing, like learned, you know, did the work basically. Then that would be like, okay, then I'm okay to read this book. So I just held on to it because I had spaced my TBR at the time. My TBR had gotten down pretty low, so I was like, okay, I can hold on to this. And that hasn't happened. She has not come back to Twitter. Her Twitter's still there. She just hasn't liked anything since like March 2020. Hasn't done anything, like it's just chilling. So yeah, I can give this one up. I'm sad about it, not for her, but for the book, because it's a dragon book. It sounded really fun, but she's apparently a shit person. So, really sick of people being shit people. The next one is a book I was gonna get around to, but I like am not super interested in getting around to it, honestly. And that is How the King of Elfame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. And it's a short story collection set in the Cruel Prince world. I don't care enough. I was like, oh, I can, like, it's short, I can just like read it, but I don't want to. I don't want to like take up my time reading something like just because I have it. So yeah, I don't want to read this really, and I don't care enough about the Cruel Prince world to read short stories set in it. Like, it's not the Grishaverse, like it's not any of my favorite worlds. I don't need to read this. This is something that I'm going to talk about more in like my end of the year video, but I am very intrigued on how my reading will change since I'm not getting any books from subscription boxes at this point, besides occasional book of the month, but that's like not an ongoing thing necessarily. So I'll be intrigued on how my reading changes when I don't just like have things and I'm like, well, I can read it because I have it, you know? I think it's gonna shift some things, but who knows. The next one might come as a bit of a shocker, but it has sent my TBR for a while, and that's why I'm ultimately giving it up. And that is Hades Persephone, The Curse of the Golden Arrow by Heidi Hastings and Erica Hastings. This was a book that they had sent to me, which is nice. They like hunted down someone that really liked Hades Persephone and sent them their book. However, I, earlier this year, went on that whole exploration of Hades Persephone retellings, and I have yet to find one that I really love that isn't just like a inspired by. I will link that video on the screen somewhere. And so I'm just very skeptical to read straight up Hades Persephone retellings at this point, aside from Lore Olympus. So when it's actually Hades Persephone, I've been burned a lot. I've been burned a time too many, and it's not this book's fault. This book could be fantastic. I just don't trust it. And I can also get this like on Kindle or something if I really want to read it. People are like, no, it's amazing. But I also don't trust other people's opinions on A Haze Persephone because most of them are wrong. Like what I want in the Haze Persephone story and what everyone else seems to want is very different. So yeah, I'm getting rid of this because I look at it and I'm just like, oh, I don't think I'll like you. And I just don't want to be disappointed by Haze Persephone stories ever again. Next we have Goddess in the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson. This is a book that I was like contemplating giving up back and forth about it for a while, and ultimately decided like I think it's just time to go, because again, it's one of those books that I think in my heart of hearts is going to be like a 3-star. I'm gonna like it, it's gonna be fine, it's not gonna blow me away. There's always the random 5% chance that a book will blow me away unexpectedly, but I don't want to take my chances right now with books. And I'm also just not particularly drawn to YA in general. There's still some YA books that I'm reading, but YA is not on the top of my list. And then YA sci-fi, especially not. YA fantasy has its own set of problems, but YA sci-fi, have I ever really loved one besides like classic dystopia when I was in the dystopia phase? I don't know. I don't know if I've really been like blown away by any of them. And yeah, I would much rather just read adult sci-fi. I have a lot of adult sci-fi that I want to read that I have on my shelf. So I just want to devote my time to that. Like if I want to read a sci-fi, I'm not going to want to read this. So I've heard it's really good though. Like it's, again, nothing against this book. I heard it's really good. It's just not something that's calling to me and that I think I'm gonna love. It's not the book for me. Then we have A Marvelous Light by Freya Marsky. And this is a book that like, oh, so back and forth on this. Similar to how I was feeling about the Sylvain Nouvelle story. It sounds like from the synopsis that this is a like historical fiction-y book. Correct me if I'm wrong. If someone's already read this, like I will probably still have the books by the time this comes out because I won't have gotten rid of them yet. They'll be sitting in a box somewhere. But this is a male-male romance set in a like it sounds like historical fiction, British Isles, and is taking place in like a magical like bureaucracy kind of thing. Yeah, I just feel like it's gonna be more historical fiction than anything, and I just don't think I'm gonna love that. So I don't know. I have some friends that I know have like either read this or want to read this. But I just don't know. I think it's one of those that like I could love, so maybe I should hold on to it, but it also seems like, oh, it's not too long. It's like 325. I just don't know. So this one is the one I'm most like, I could be convinced to keep, but I just ultimately think like I'm not gonna love it for some reason, because it's that more historical setting. I don't know. And the last book on this list is a book I probably really shouldn't have kept in the first place, but now as time has gone on, I like really don't want to have it. And that is Illusionary by Zoraida Cordova. I read Illusionary, right? No, Incendiary. This is Illusionary. Incendiary, which is the first book in this. I think it's just a duology. It might be a trilogy. I don't know. But it's like a magical Spanish Inquisition kind of inspired story. And I really didn't like the first book until the very, very end. It was like the ending was like a little bit better, but ultimately I think I gave it like 2, maybe generously 3 stars. But I really didn't like it. And I was like, I'm not going to continue, whatever. And then the second book showed up at my door. The publisher just sent it to me and I was like, okay, well, since I have it, I was a little bit intrigued by the end. Maybe I'll continue. I have now since forgotten the end, and this one is shorter than the first book, but like I've forgotten. I know that the main character's like a kind of an outsider. I don't even know what about the ending I really dug. Yeah, so I'm just like not super intrigued by this, and haven't heard anything that's from people that's like, oh my god, the second book is so good, you know. So I think this can just go. Again, I have so many other books that I want to read, and a ton I'm asking for Christmas that are mostly on that Goodreads Choice Awards list, because I want to read good things. Not that the Goodreads Choice Awards is like the only good books out there, I know. But yeah, those are the books that I've decided to give up, make room on my shelf. I counted a little bit ago and then I forgot the number, but I'm in the low 30s for my TBR now, so that is my current TBR. I don't count later books in the series, so technically it's like I'll have maybe books like 4 and 5 in a series, but I only count 4 because like I can't read 5 until, that's how I do it. Does this make sense to you? I don't know, it makes sense to me. But I have, I think, 34 or 36 books on my TBR, which after Christmas I'll probably have more because I am asking for more books. However, I'm okay with like that like 30-ish range number. And then I will be trying to stick to mostly these. And I think this year I'll be slightly more successful. I'll talk about this more in my like goals video, which will be in January, okay? But because I'm not gonna be getting a lot of like, again, books being sent to me from, you know, subscription boxes, things like that, and hopefully I won't be slumpy in 2022. That'd be nice. I'm thinking that I can like make my way through these a little bit easier than I might have. I mean, I didn't get a ton of books this year either. We'll talk about that later. But I am fine with that number, but it's also why I wanted to get some of these books down and off my list, because everything else that's on there now, like I could pick up anything and be excited to read it. So I want to just stay there with my TBR. Only keep things on there that I'm pumped to read. So that is it for my end of the year unhaul. Comment below and let me know if you are unhauling any books at the end of the year, what you're doing to kind of like round out your year TBR wise and maybe get it down for a more manageable number for 2022, or if you're just adding to it. Let me know. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.